They fired me in front of the entire team. The room smelled of coffee and excuses, and the projector hummed like a beast just before it lunges. My name flashed on the screen. Then a new name replaced mine with practiced ease. "We're moving in a different direction," my boss said, soft as a blade. "You've done good work, but we need someone cheaper, someone faster." The crowd's polite claps peeled away to nothing, a garden of teeth biting at my pride. I stood there and said nothing, because saying something would only echo what their eyes already knew. I wasn't enough. I walked out with my box of laminated charts and a brain that wouldn't stop replaying the moment. The city seemed both familiar and alien, a streetlight flickering like a bad decision you keep walking toward anyway. At the curb, 1,000 voices pressed on my ears. Shoulders drooped, confidence evaporated, dinner money tight, and the hollow ache of being displaced, not just from a job, but from a version of myself I'd almost believed in. But the choice was not resignation. It was a decision. If the tide would wash me away, I'd learn to swim with new strokes. I stepped into the rain that had started as drizzle and turned sharp, the way truth does when it finally shows up uninvited. I told myself, prove your worth without their signal, without their permission. Prove it in a language they cannot ignore. Consistency, grit, undeniable progress. I quit asking for permission and started building something on my own terms. I took on the kind of work no one would notice. Cleanup, small repairs, freelance edits for strangers who paid in hours of sleep stolen from mornings. I kept a ledger not of money earned, but of moments rehearsed and improved. A sentence tightened here, a thumbnail perfected there, a script that landed with a quiet snap instead of a loud bang. The project did not announce itself with fireworks. It whispered, then talked, then argued with me. The first video barely scraped 30 views. The second fell flat at 12. Critics posted in the comments, some cruel, most ignorant, reminding me of my old boss's smile and the way it had made my confidence shrivel. Yet I learned a language I hadn't spoken since college. Edit, pace, motive, audience. I learned to name my fear aloud and then show it the back of my hand through discipline. I started choosing a new kind of audience, those who believed redemption could be earned, not gifted by luck or connections. I told stories, not slick ads, tales of failure that didn't end in excuses. Stories of the moment you could decide to become someone else. The channel grew in slow, stubborn increments. A month of odd comments, a week of shared struggles, a single email from a producer asking for a sample. Would I be willing to pitch a documentary about rising from ruin? The words "you've got something" felt like the first real door I'd ever opened. Through it all, I learned to measure failure not by the empty minutes of a calendar, but by the inches of my own resolve. I slept late, woke early, and treated each day as a contract with myself. The nights were long coffee cups, a blinking cursor, the quiet of a room that looked nothing like the boardroom where I'd been burned. Dawn finally arrived with a script that wasn't just clever, but necessary. The video that bore it out crawled onto the platform and found a small audience first, a handful, then hundreds, then thousands. It wasn't a blaze, it was a furnace, turning doubt into the steel of a skill you cannot pretend to own. And then, one day, the world around me changed in a way that did not require the old boss's acknowledgement to feel real. A major client reached out, not because I shouted at them or begged, but because they saw something honest and stubborn in the work. A commitment to truth and craft that couldn't be bartered away. The numbers rose, not just on a screen, but inside me. Pride tempered by humility, confidence tempered by caution. I could finally breathe without the scent of fear clinging to my clothes. The most private moment of victory came when I faced him, Not the man who fired me, but the echo of him in every place I hadn't yet stood tall. He appeared at a conference I attended as a speaker, a row behind me in a tailored suit and a smile that hadn't grown up with me. The room swelled with a soft, approving murmur when my name was announced. I stepped to the microphone, and for a heartbeat the old fear hovered, heavy and ridiculous. Then I spoke not into the air, but into the truth I'd earned. I didn't need to accuse him. I did not need to rub his failure in his face. Instead, I told the audience how I'd learned to listen to the quiet voice within that whispers, work, fail, revise, repeat. I showed the receipts of the journey, the early thumbnails, the brutal feedback, the nights when I debated quitting and chose to keep going. I did not frame it as revenge. I framed it as resolution. A contract with a version of me that refused to be erased for someone else's convenience. The room absorbed the story, and when I finished, the applause did not belong to me alone. It belonged to every version of me that had nearly given up. Walking off that stage, I understood the quiet power of returning not to destroy, but to reveal. I had returned to myself, and in doing so, I returned to the world with something more lasting than vindication. A clear, undefined truth. Earned sense of purpose. The betrayal that had burned me to ash had become the wind that tempered the steel. So I keep moving. I post the next chapter, then the next, not to prove others wrong, but to prove to the person who matters most, the one I used to be, that you can be broken and still choose to become more. If redemption has a hinge, it swings on honesty. And honesty is a long, patient road. I walk it now with the same stubborn stride that carried me out of that conference room, with a name still in my pocket, but no longer on my lips. The doors I once watched close are the same doors I now walk through, carrying the quiet certainty that I earned this, proof that the best revenge is a life that refuses to be defined by the people who tried to erase you. The final image is not of triumph shouted to the world. It's the look I catch in a glass a few hours later, where my reflection nods back with a simple, unornamented truth. I am here. I am enough. And I am finally beyond the moment that tried to break me.